Hi, I'm Pat O'Connell. I am a board member here at Happy Valley Conference Center, but my original experience with Happy Valley Conference Center goes way back when I became a firefighter. I volunteered at the Branciforte Fire Department. And so we got a call for maybe an out-of-control burn in the back area of a property at this address. And it was the first of many fires over the years that I had gone here because Walter, the nice gentleman that lived on this ranch, one of the last remaining ranches in the area, it was still a working ranch. And he would cut up his trimmings and make a big pile out here, and he'd start a fire. So the first time I came out here was one of the first times I got to put a fire out, which is, his burn pile out here. Another occasion that was pretty memorable. It was I had actually gone up the ranks a bit and was an acting captain one day, and we get a call for a fire at this location, but actually I knew where to find it now, how to get through the different gates that you had to go through to get there. But this time it wasn't one fire. I was trying to remember whether it was exactly 9 or 11, but it was like that. He had started different fires through the whole property. And one of them in particular, right over here, this little hill that goes up here, it had gotten away. And so I remember it because, again, another volunteer, his first time he got to put out a fire was here. And when you put out a fire for an uncontrolled burn, you have to build a perimeter around it, so you have to do some work. And so we used this as a learning experience, but when we first got here, it was more like a panic because there was more fires than firefighters to put it out. So we had to quickly move from one to another, knock it down, and then try to deal with the different fires. So every time a different volunteer came, they got some tools and went to another one of the spot fires. But we got it out, and I had a long discussion about this with Walter, in that you can't have multiple fires. And we talked about him maybe not doing burns in the future, or at least leaving it to one, making sure you cleared around the fire, because you can't light a fire in the middle of a field of dry grass. Over the years, the calls became different to this property. Instead of calls for these burns that occasionally happened, as Walter got older, they became medical calls to his property. And this is where I started to become more friendly with him. We did kind of get along okay after we got over the fire issues, but when we started coming to help him with his medical problems, we got to talk. We always got to talk. He talked about his farming here and how his family had been here a long time, and how much he enjoyed the area. He wanted to stay here and never leave it. So the medical calls became not only Walter, but his daughter also. And on the call that where he was taken away, he passed away. And I didn't know what exactly was going to become of the property at that time, but I knew that his daughter was going to take over and try to carry the tradition on. She was not really prepared to take care of things. She wasn't able to run the place. Somebody else kind of took over for her, and this whole property became really filled with people. This was not ideal. This became an ugly situation here. There were people here that had issues. They fought among themselves, and I don't remember how many people exactly here, but it could have been 30 or 40 people on this property. There was always problems on this property then. And so we would start coming to a lot more calls. And some of them were really horrendous. But this is the time where by now I had become the fire chief of the department. And so to me it started to be a personal thing. We all live here, the people in this department, or the fire district, and this became a problem within the whole neighborhood because things were starting to get unsafe around this property. Over to this building over here. One of the neatest pieces of this property was this old barn. This was one of the original barn of the farmhouse, but now it became a place for at least 8 to 12 people were living inside here at different places. They would gather in different levels. There's 3 levels of this property with a rickety stairs all the way. There was no running water. It was bad. At about that time, Tim was here, and we got to know him pretty well. And he was really concerned about what was going on here because it wasn't safe. Things were being stolen from the conference center. You couldn't have events out here like you wanted to because it's dangerous folks. And the mood of the place had switched over to this really difficult area where all of a sudden every call here became dangerous, where you would not go here unless the sheriff was escorting you because you didn't want to be here alone with a small crew. I had the fire engines come and drive through here anytime they were passing by just to have a presence, to remind folks. But this was a difficult time, and it just was a drain on the community, a drain on the conference center, a drain on Tim. And eventually we were able to get to the point where they were required to start to remove their stuff, remove themselves, and get this area under control. One of the things that we had to do when they finally cleared out all these folks was we had to check the whole property. And this property becoming part of the Happy Valley Conference was the best thing that could ever happen with this property. I know after years of working on it, Tim was able to finally get this agreement that this would indeed become part of the Happy Valley Conference. It would be preserved, but the other parts that really are special are the parts out back up here, where you can sit in the forest. I'm standing now at a cave. In this cave, I didn't really know it was here until I came across it one day. This goes back to the early history of the pioneers when they wanted to refrigerate and even store wine in a place like this. So it was a special find, but this whole area is like that. There's lots of surprises that you can find in walking through it. Later on, I had a search dog, and we used to come out here searching all the time. But the best part was when I got to hide for the other dogs, because I could just sit in the forest for hours. Having this preserved, having this become a part of what the programs are at the conference center, and having this long association with the conference center, it was Tim asked me one day if I wanted to become a board member, and I gladly accepted because I've been watching out for this property for like 20 years on different levels and different things, but always involved in some of what goes on here in a different way. than most people would have experienced. So it was, and it has been a pleasure. I've been able to become a steward of the creek over here. That's again, preserving this property for those who come behind us is, to me, just a great thing. Continuing the programs where you can walk around this property and you can feel there is something special here. There is a lot of things that, you go, there's a deep feelings, and everybody's feelings are different, but I think there is a spiritual element to all of it too. So we're coming up on the time of year, and it's time to give. The idea came up of Guardians of the Grove, just like that name. And Tim says, you've been a guardian of this grove for a long time, and in ways that other people haven't. But to me, everybody can be a guardian of this grove if you just help a bit. And we can all contribute to the preservation of this place. And it'll be here, this is his 70th year, my 70th year too. And we want to continue that for another 70 years and beyond. And having this property in a unique spot, and this is a special area, and it will be preserved. And those coming generations will be able to come out here. So help us.